Hey everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and in today's video we're going to talk about the brand new Turtle Beach Stealth Pro 2. Probably one of the most hyped headsets of this year. I can't even tell you how many comments I've seen on other videos I've posted. When is this review going to come out? I've had this headset for a long time and I've done a lot of testing on it. I'm really excited to be sharing this with you today. Starting with basic specs, the Stealth Pro 2 retails for $350. It's available in 4 SKUs because you can choose a white or a black colorway, but you also have to pick your primary platform compatibility. So basically the Xbox version will still work in all platforms and the PC version will work on all platforms but Xbox. Because it has the same price and more compatibility, a lot of people I think would just assume to purchase the Xbox version. However, there's a really important caveat in that if you buy the Xbox version, there is no onboard game-to-chat control on PC. You have to buy the PC version and install the Waves audio driver. I'll get into more of that detail later, but while I have more of your attention, I just want to call that out. So if you know you're playing primarily on PC, buy the PC version. The rest of the specs are impressive and frankly expected for this price range. You get simultaneous Bluetooth, which does support Bluetooth 5.3 with LDAC, so you get really good Bluetooth performance. It has onboard 10-band EQ, it has active noise cancellation, and a lot of other robust features that's going to make this a pretty unique headset in the price. Before I get any further, I do want to disclose this was sent to me for review. I've actually had this for close to a month and a half now, and I've provided a lot of testing and feedback to Turtle Beach. I was not paid in any way to do this. I don't do like special, sponsored content for stuff like this. And I will have some things to say that are both positive and critical of this headset. However, I want to point out a couple things. So the black one is a production spec, at least for what was getting made for mass manufacturing. The white one has a custom firmware based off some feedback I've done. There's already been firmware updates for the Stealth Pro 2 for launch. One of them includes upgrading and improving the microphone quality. So if you get a Stealth Pro 2, I would strongly advise to install the Swarm 2 software, update the firmware, and you will get better microphone performance. The custom firmware, the reason why I'm testing this one is because there are some tweaks to the active noise cancellation. So just while I'm on that note, the active noise cancellation is exceptional on this headset. They did a really good job at blocking a lot of background noise, and it will get close to rivaling the SteelSeries Omni, the Nova Pro Omni, and the Nova Elite that came out recently, or at least in the last year. So both of those are really exceptional headsets for ANC, and this one's really close to that, which is very commendable considering it has more breathable pads. The reason why I'm testing custom firmware though is because in its current state, the active noise cancellation has a subsonic boost. Basically, there's like these really low frequencies, typically about 35 hertz. I actually measured this with a spectrum analyzer and notice that if the seal is not perfect, you will get a little bit of a bass lift. So if you have a good seal, this really isn't an issue, but if you have like this rumbling effect when you're wearing this headset, you either have a poor seal, and if that's the case, wait for the firmware update to come because this does fix that issue. However, they're just finalizing some other bug testing instead of rolling this out for mass production. If that's still an issue and you don't want to wait, you can turn ANC off for now. It is an inconvenient bug to have at launch, but I want to disclose that, and that was kind of some of the importance and benefit of being able to test this so early. And if you wanted too long didn't watch before watching the rest of the review, well, here it is. The Stealth Pro 2 made a lot of awesome improvements over the original Stealth Pro. I prefer this headset much more than the older Stealth Pro, and it's not perfect though. The microphone is excellent, as is the comfort, because they also reduced clamp force while improving pad comfort. The simultaneous Bluetooth and active noise cancellation works pretty well. I'll get into that in more detail later. And the sound quality is excellent as well. It's actually tuned to sound almost the same as the older Stealth Pro. In fact, nearly identical in the measurement rig, except this uses new 60mm drivers. And one of the benefits of this particular case, it's not always the case, but the Stealth Pro 2 has higher power handling. So if you're a bass head and you like to turn it up, these things just absolutely pound. So now we're going to get into all the detailed stuff. When it comes to what's included in the box, the first thing you are presented with is this awesome case. It is very robust. It's a tad bulky, so if you're traveling and you don't have a large backpack, this is going to take quite a bit of room. However, it's obviously not required that you use a case like this. However, if you do use it, it does a good job of protecting your stuff. So when the headset's presented, you basically have the microphone detached because check this out, removable microphone, and it's actually on there quite securely. So I'm going to straighten this guy out, I'll put it back in, and then the headset basically, because you have rotating cups, it looks like that. Honestly, this looks super premium, it feels very premium, and I'll get into the build quality shortly, but I like the presentation. The one thing I wasn't super crazy about though is there was a really strong odor when I opened both of these. I really hope that in the production side, when more people are getting like mass quantities, that smell isn't as prevalent, but it's just worth pointing out. I aired this out for a few days because the smell was quite strong. So I want to cover that just in case. Now, this is the base transmitter. It has a rechargeable battery that docks into it because this comes with 2 batteries. And unlike the older Stealth Pro, which had 12 hours per battery, this new one supports 40 hours per battery. It's a massive improvement in battery life. And by having detachable, easily detachable, and removable batteries, you can just buy a new one over time. So if this is ever becoming an issue, just buy a new battery and you're good to go. Now on the underside of the transmitter, or at least on the back, if you buy the Xbox version, you're going to have a little switch there that says Xbox. If you have the PC version, there's no switch because it's basically going to work on PC or PlayStation without having to touch anything. Also included is this USB-A transmitter, which will work on PC or PlayStation. This is the whole thing, and until these transmitters are sold separately, all I can assume is if you need to use this on Xbox, buy the Xbox version, because I have not seen an Xbox USB-A transmitter listed for the Stealth Pro 2 yet. If that changes, I'll append into the description, or I'll add a comment just to let you know, but be sure you're very diligent on researching what accessories you have and what it supports. Just to point that out. Now, one nice pro, at least at the time of the launch, if you purchase this through turtlebeach.com directly, and I will have a link for them. It's non-affiliate link. I don't get any kickbacks from this either. But if you purchase through Turtle Beach, you actually get a 3rd transmitter for free. So that's kind of a nice benefit because you can expand this to use up to 4 transmitters on the same headset. So if you buy the Xbox version, that means you can have one to your Switch dock, your PlayStation, your PC, and your Xbox, and just hit a button and toggle through them all. I wish more was included in the box because, just be real, you have the SteelSeries Nova Pro Omni for $400 that has multiple USB inputs on the back, and you can listen to 2 simultaneously plus Bluetooth. This one is just one USB source at a time. When I say just one USB, let's be real, I don't think a lot of us are going to be listening to 3 different sources at the same time. It does still do simultaneous Bluetooth, but at least I want to explain the transmitter behavior. Very easy to toggle. The connection time to toggle between sources is a little bit slower than what you get with the the Astro A50X in Gen 5 and the Novas. Both of those seem to sync and enable themselves slightly faster than this. However, it's not like I need it to work within the millisecond I'm pressing the button, and it's still adequate. You also get a 2-meter long USB-A to C cable. So the other thing I want to point out is there's no USB-C in the box to go to your device. So if you're planning on using a USB-C port, just keep that in mind. You'll probably have to get an adapter of some kind to benefit from that. So let's take a closer look at the headset because there's a lot to look at. This is a stunner of a headset, and it's built with so many premium materials and quality. It's completely breaking the trope of that gaming headsets are often look and feel cheap. And there's been some other nice looking and built headsets, the Alienware Pro wireless headset, the new SteelSeries Arctis Nova Elite, for example. Those are built with more premium materials and they feel really nice in hand. And this is no different. This is an exceptional build. This design is really cool because it's breathable. It's using a stretchy fabric right here, kind of like what you get on the AirPods Max. So it's a nice clean look, and the benefit of that is when you wear it on your head, unlike a traditional suspension strap, this thing isn't sticking out way above my head, but it still feels a lot like a suspension headband. Now, this is all metal. This whole thing is anodized aluminum. It looks incredible. You have a telescoping yoke that's kind of buttery, and I'm going to confirm this because my pre-production unit had a slightly different resistance from left to right. This one's noticeably more consistent. You have a swivel, so you can see that it rotates, and it does rotate all the way. So you can wear it around your neck. The neck feel of this is exceptional because of this offset design. If you rotate it down, you have these little pillow cushions resting on your shoulders, and it's not squeezing your head. It's one of the most comfortable headsets in this price range. In fact, it probably is, because I'm thinking of the Novas, Astro, and this just feels more natural to me and doesn't really squeeze my head. So I really like that. You get the tilting cups, of course, so you're getting full articulation, as you can see. It's also built exceptionally well with the headband design. I don't think most people are going to do that, but just really premium. You have this metallic finish on the outside, and these wheels are etched metal wheels. These are actually metal, not plastic. They have kind of like a diamond cut on the side. You can almost see that shimmer from it. Now, let's go into the buttons real quick because there's going to be a couple little differences here. And I mentioned the microphone's detachable. This is a USB or a micro USB. Do you remember those guys, or mini USB? So not a crazy modern terminal, but it's at least very secure because it's larger. I'm bringing both of these out because they're labeled slightly differently. I'll try to do this. So the white one is the Xbox version and the black one is the PC version. The mode button is assignable. You can have it to toggle your ANC. You can have it change through EQ presets, etc. You have your master volume, that one down, and this is a really smooth, dampened wheel with a clicky sensation. It feels incredibly premium. Then you have the game to chat mix on the Xbox version. This wheel only does game to chat mix on Xbox. On PC, there is no planned support for game to chat mix on the Xbox version. That to me is a kind of a feature parity miss when compared to Astro and drawing a blank, SteelSeries, at least in this price range, and the Maxwell offers it as well. So on the PC version, you have an assignable wheel. The default, you can have it just be your mic volume, if you will, or like mic sensitivity. You can reassign this wheel to do other things. Even now at launch, the wheel still cannot be assigned to game to chat mix. The PC version will have game to chat mix, but right now you have to install the Waves audio driver, and then you can toggle and slide the slider on the Swarm 2 app to change your chat mix. There's no way to control it on the headset yet. I told them this really needed to happen ASAP, so part of the upcoming updates is going to allow you to assign the game to chat mix to it. That's what they told me. I'm just trying to be as transparent as possible, so hopefully it comes sooner than later, but I want to set proper expectations for launch so you know that that function isn't there yet, and I can't guarantee exactly when it's going to be there. Then you have the USB-C port, you have the power button, and then again, that's what it looks like when the microphone's detached. You do have little microphones here for ANC, and when you're on PC, if you remove the mic, you can't use any internal mic on this, so I just want to point that out as well. So plan on using the boom if you plan on using the mic. Now we go over to this side, and this is going to be identical as I get tangled up in the mic. So you get your quick switch button. This is going to toggle between all of your available inputs or like paired transmitters. This volume wheel is for your Bluetooth volume. Then you have the Bluetooth pairing / action button. So to answer a call, you would just tap it, and I just turned it on. Look at that. So that's all you have to do to answer a call or hold it for pairing mode. And then again, this changes your volume. Kind of nice that you can adjust the volume independently from your USB source without actually having to touch the mobile Bluetooth device. So honestly, the build is such a selling point with this headset. And I'm just going to be blunt. I don't think Turtle Beach has always been known for the most premium looking and feeling headsets. They definitely have looked very gamery in the past. It's a very specific aesthetic, and this is completely breaking from that trend. And to me, they've now catapulted to the top of probably the most premium looking and feeling headset I think I've ever used. The only one that's really comparable is the Arctis Nova Elite, which is $600. So this is pretty impressive. As far as comfort goes, some wins keep happening here. So they reduced the clamp force on the Stealth Pro 2 compared to the older Stealth Pro, and that reduction is also paired with a more breathable pad that has a 3D shape to it to kind of contour to your head a little bit better. You get a more consistent seal this way, and Turtle Beach has always actually been one of the biggest proponents of comfort for those who wear glasses. They have their Pro Spec tabs on the older Stealth like 700 models. This one doesn't have any pull tab, but it's a very compliant memory foam. They make sure that this pressure point right here is nice and supple. So if you have frames or, the temples are going in above your ear, you're not feeling a hard pressure point. So the fact that this weighs slightly less than the older Stealth Pro, not by much, but slightly less, has lower clamp force, a more compliant pad, and a very breathable pad, comfort is immensely improved. It easily goes up towards the top. So on the note of comfort, again, I'm making a lot of comparisons. The Nova Pro Omni that just came out is so comfortable when you put it on. It feels a little bit more comfortable than this initially, and it has better noise isolation, but it's because it has leatherette pads. So it traps in the sound better, but it may not be as breathable over time. So if you live in a warm and more humid climate, that's one of the downsides of using leatherette pads. Otherwise, I think they really nailed it with comfort. This is super close, but it's using really robust materials. It weighs a little more. The suspension strap design, or like this, woven textile, is not as compliant as a full suspension strap, but it's much more compact it's still exceptional to wear. I can wear this for a very long period of time. And because it's breathable, I love the fabric, frankly. You can buy, eventually, I'm sure there's going to be some aftermarket pads. Nothing yet because it's new. But just to show you this, you can just turn this to pop it off. It's so, and there's no rattles or pops or anything. Everything's just like super, super premium. All right, and this is what my voice sounds like using the Turtle Beach Stealth Pro 2 microphone. I'm not doing any changes in post-production. This is basically just setting the microphone gain to 75 on Windows, or at least on the Swarm 2 software, and hitting record, and this is what I sound like. Now, there are a couple key features and things I want to point out on the configuration for the Swarm 2 software. We're going to show you all of this stuff on the right here in a moment, but the first thing I want to do is show you some important settings for the microphone. Because if your microphone ever sounds bad, regardless of what headset you have, Windows 11 lately has been applying audio enhancements to your mic. So right now you can see default effects is applied, and that's going to allow certain effects to be processed, but it's not really ruining the sound. If you ever see voice clarity enabled, Microsoft just kills the sound when it does that. It makes you sound more like a walkie-talkie, whereas off is more of the pure sound that you're not modifying. So if you ever have microphone issues, I just want to point out that you want to double check this. So we're going to go back to the Swarm 2 software. You can see my sensitivity is at 75. Now my microphone side tone's at 70. I can turn this all the way up, and now I'm at 100. This isn't a super loud side tone. In fact, most people will probably be sticking between 70 and 100 no matter what, because the occlusion of this headset having stronger noise isolation, it's going to make you talk louder, I think, because it blocks so much sound. There is some good functionality to this. So the microphone side tone has no background noise or hiss. So it's very good performer in that regard. And on that note, with active noise cancellation, there's no hiss with that one enabled either. The older Stealth Pro 2 or older Stealth Pro and some other headsets, when you enable ANC, it creates a white noise hiss. It's just prevalent on a lot of models in general. And the Stealth Pro 2 basically eliminated that. It's basically silent. So just want to call that out while I can. So the noise gate, this is pretty self-explanatory. It basically helps reduce some background noise. Right now it's set to off. I can set it to 50%, and it really doesn't like hurt anything in any way. The noise gate on this, even at max setting, is not so aggressive that you have heavy clipping, even if you're not speaking too loud. So I'll set it to 100 now. I'll talk a little bit quieter, and this is what my voice sounds like effectively in the worst case scenario. Now, there's one other feature. I'm going to set the noise gate back to 50. I'm going to type on this keyboard, then talk, and then I'm going to turn on the AI noise reduction, and then I'll talk again. So I'm typing and talking at the same time. Now I'm going to turn, and I just heard the beep on my mic. Now AI noise rejection is turned on, so I'm going to start typing again. And I'm talking while I'm typing. I don't really type like an angry cat, but I just wanted you to hear what that did. These enhancements are very mild. They're not as extreme as what I get on like the Razer Black Shark V3 Pro or the new SteelSeries Arctis Nova Omni. However, it's effective at cutting most normal background noise. So I recommend just leaving the AI noise reduction on. It's going to toggle it on the headset. You don't need the software to run, which means if you're playing on console, you could still benefit from that functionality. So the one other thing I want to point out with side tone is if you enable active noise cancellation, the side tone stops working. I can't hear myself pretty much at all right now, except this nasally, annoying voice that I have coming through the headset itself. So enabling ANC, unfortunately, stops side tone completely, which makes sense to an extent because the idea is to block background noise as much as possible when the ANC is turned on. However, there's no way to get around that for the microphone in this particular case. If you switch active noise cancellation to ambient mode works really, really well on this headset. It's much closer to the Sony InZone H9 II, which had the best ambient mode I've ever heard. This is really close to that. It sounds very natural and open, not really any white noise or issues making things sound too artificial. And the background noise pickup for ambient mode is basically real time. I can hear fans running on the side. The only thing, though, is you still don't get microphone side tone with ambient mode on. I wish that at least worked because enabling, if I turn off ANC and have my noise gate set to max or my side tone set to max, I hear myself more clearly
in this configuration than in ambient mode. So it's not perfect. Maybe they'll improve it over time, but I just wanted to point out those quirks.
Before I get into the sound quality, while I'm on the Swarm 2 software, I just want to show you a couple other configurations. So if you scroll down, it's going to show the EQ settings. And on game, you have a 10-band EQ. You can assign the wheel, or at least that mode button, to cycle through your game presets. So right now, Turtle Beach signature sound is the default preset. And of these, it's my favorite one. And all of the measurements that I'm about to show you are based on signature sound. You do have the software option, which basically just gives you a lot more to work with if you want to have a lot of different presets, but there are 4 modes here, and you can just create a custom one. And if you create a custom one and you don't like to mess with it too much, you can just save it to the headset itself. Just to be blunt, this is a more limited feature set compared to what you get with SteelSeries and Logitech/Astro. They have full parametric EQ with a larger game and community library, so nothing in that regard yet. I did ask if parametric EQ was ever a possibility, and if it becomes a possibility later, it's only going to be on the software side and nothing on the headset itself. It's not that every headset in this price range has parametric EQ, because the Odyssey Maxwell also only has 10-band, but it gives you a handful of onboard custom presets. So this is a little bit more limited, but at least it's still onboard, meaning you can benefit from this on console yet again. And then if we click on microphone, you can customize the microphone sound as well. So if you tend to keep the microphone away from your mouth to kind of get rid of that plosive sound, so like the harsh P's and air coming out of your mouth, you can boost the bass a little bit. And then I would just reduce the 2.5K a little to counter that effect. And by doing that, you can kind of bring some warmth back in your voice. So I would boost, like, in this case, I would just take 160 hertz and probably add about 3 or 4 decibels to it, depending on your voice. Boost 250 by about 3 decibels, and then reduce 2.5K by a couple. Just based on the voicing I've heard of this mic, if you keep it further away from your mouth, doing something like that is going to help bring some of that warmth back. You also have microphone presets as well, so if you don't want to mess with that, you can easily customize it yourself. And this is where we get into the assignable buttons. So mode, I mentioned earlier, it's active noise cancellation. There's your game presets, and there's your microphone noise gate. This particular wheel is your microphone side tone volume, bass boost level, treble boost level, or noise gate volume. So I didn't cover this earlier, but if you go all the way to the top here, you also have superhuman hearing, and there's different modes. You have like legacy, footsteps, gunshots. I never crank this. This greatly reduces the bass, and it kind of makes things sound a little bit more crunchy, if you will. It's to help boost footsteps and spatial cues at the sacrifice of pure enjoyment, as far as I'm concerned, and immersiveness. However, you can turn it on for like footsteps, for example, and set it to 30%. And to me, that is like not going so extreme, but it can be beneficial in some cases. So that's always something you can play with separately from the EQ itself. Going back to the controls, if I click the wheel, this is one of the issues I have, is there's no side tone or game to chat mix again on Windows. I covered this earlier, but in case you skipped ahead to this, there is no way to assign game to chat mix on the PC version or the Xbox version currently on Windows, even if you install this Waves audio driver that I have here. The rest of the settings are pretty straightforward. You get the battery life indicator. This is just to give you, status about your current configuration, and you can change the battery timeout function as well. So right now it's set to 30 minutes. You can set it to none if you never want it to turn off. 30 minutes is going to be the least aggressive, I guess. And then you have wake on motion, because it has a little sensor built in. So if you have that enabled and this headset goes into standby mode, it's just chilling on your desk. When you lift it up to wear it, it'll automatically turn back on. Pretty nice features that isn't too common on a lot of headsets, so I'm glad that they added that. The Astro A50X and Gen 5 do a similar function. Moving on into sound quality and starting with the measurements first, I have 2 different headphone measuring rigs. One is the Brulin Care 5128, which is considered on the higher end side. It's a pretty accurate rig. And then I have the older KB006X Pinaclone. If this all sounds like a foreign language to you, or you're new to the channel, it's basically just an ear simulator to put visually how a headphone sounds and how it measures the way a headphone sounds. Your ears will work a little bit differently, so this isn't always like apples to apples comparison of what you'll hear, but it gets pretty close in certain areas, especially in the lower frequencies. So this is just to help kind of provide objective data for you. So I'm not just saying this has a lot of bass or a very small amount of bass, and if I say it's really bright or really dark, that's referring to the treble, and we can actually show that based off these graphs where that emphasis is to help you understand what you're hearing, and this also helps if you're ever doing custom EQ. So if we look at the frequency response, this is on the older Gross KB006X Pinaclone, and the reason why I'm starting here is because I want to show you how it compares to the older Stealth Pro as well. Just like other Turtle Beach headsets that have preceded this, Turtle Beach has a very common signature sound. It has boosted bass, a lot of gaming headsets do. It typically peaks close to 100 hertz in the bass area. In this case, it's closer to about 90 hertz, yeah, 85 hertz. This little scoop right here in the 250 hertz area, this is kind of important for a headset like this. It's called a mud cut. When you boost bass this much and then taper into the mid-range, if you don't do this cut, it can make things sound really thick and heavy, almost too much. And this helps kind of clean up the sound so you can still get really impactful bass without sounding like you're in a box or everything is like really congested sounding. Vocal tuning is actually excellent on all of these Stealth headsets. You can see that when you compare it to a diffuse field, which is kind of what we expect for a more natural frequency response, it's pretty damn close. And if anything, it's below that in terms of how it's aligned. This basically just means that things sound as they should in this area. And this is the vocal area. So if you're listening to a lot of music as well, these should sound excellent for music in terms of overall timbre in that particular area. Now, very common to most gaming headsets, there's an 8 kilohertz peak. I'm usually very sensitive to this peak. This one isn't as egregious as what I got on the Nova Pro Omni or the InZone H9 II that I reviewed in the past. So this isn't bad. This is actually quite a good balance. And just to show you how this measures compared to the older Stealth Pro, I'm going to turn off the ANC on. And these are the measurements of the Stealth Pro in green versus the Stealth Pro 2. The Stealth Pro 2 has a little bit less emphasis in the bass, and it's lifted slightly higher in the vocal region. Overall, this just sounds like a slightly more clear, more resolving headset. So without really losing what made the older Stealth Pro special from an overall impact and immersion standpoint. So for the hi-fi side of things, this is actually tuned better than the older Stealth Pro. And the thing that people pretty commonly loved about the Stealth Pro before was the sound quality. They weren't as crazy about their ergonomics and button feel and all that stuff. So this is an improvement on sound on top of that, at least measured. So if I click another tool, and I guess before I move on, I'll turn this back off. If you enable or disable active noise cancellation, it does change the sound a little bit. Not so much in the higher frequencies, but it will affect how the bass performance is because the headset's doing compensation for outside noise. This behavior might change with future firmware updates because I mentioned the bass issue before with ANC if the seal isn't perfect. However, I did want to show you that. So I have a new tool called the Rig HRTF Compare, and I'm going to get rid of this guy, and we'll show you this. So this is the exact same headset with the same setting measured on two different measuring rigs, and you can see that the older rig shows a stronger peak at this boost here of about 85 hertz, where it's more linear on the Brüel & Kjær 5128. The rest of the frequency response measurements is actually quite common, or quite similar to each other, and Brüel & Kjær typically shows a little bit more treble energy than the other rig. Again, you don't have to know what any of this means, but I'm presenting it in case you do, because it can be useful data. So it's time to move into subjective sound quality, which is my gaming experience and what I've listened to. So let's just get right into it. On the gaming side of things, this is done exceptionally well in terms of immersion, because that bass emphasis really does kind of make a stronger impact with a lot of things you're listening to. And the measurements show one thing, but one thing you can't really get from the measurements is the power handling and how incredibly strong these headphone drivers are. Basically, the way this is built, if you add a ton of bass, if you're a bass head, these things handle gobs of bass without distortion. The only one that sounds deeper to me with high levels of bass is the Odyssey Maxwell, and the only other comparable one to me is the Arctis Nova Elite with the graphene driver, because it really locks in the sound. This is right up there. It produces tons of bass. You can basically ask it to do whatever you want, so much so that you can actually feel it vibrating your head a little bit. I don't advise listening like that for an extended period of time, but the power handling is there. It easily gets well over 105, 110 decibels in gaming without any distortion pretty consistently. So in terms of overall volume, they get quite loud. Even 40 to 50% volume is very comfortable to listen to. When it came to like first-person shooters and footstep awareness, I don't really think there's a huge improvement here in terms of overall positional awareness over the older Stealth Pro. Now, the Stealth Pro's original secret weapon was imaging performance. In fact, it did it better than what I got from the Turtle Beach Novas and the Astros in the past. If you were just chasing footstep directional cues, the Stealth Pros just crushed it there. I don't feel like this is any kind of monumental improvement on that. However, I don't feel like it's a downgrade either. These are still exceptional at imaging performance. A lot of headsets are play to the game and play smart. Don't feel like this headset's going to magically boost your KD. I don't want to go on that tangent, but I can tell you quite consistently this was really performant on the FPS side because the imaging performance is good. Then you factor in the base emphasis that it has. You can enjoy the immersive side of the game while still being able to pick up those positional cues. And to me, that's really important. You don't want to sacrifice all of the game's audio just so you can hear a little bit better on a footstep. And this is a strength of Turtle Beach. They've had this strength since the 700 Gen 2 as far as I'm concerned, and it's no different with the Pro 2. If anything, it sounds even better because the overall frequency response is more pleasing. And that carries me into music because these things are awesome for music, and the 8 kilohertz peak shown on the rig wasn't as strong as some others, and it was a lot more tolerable to me. Even though it has that mud cut at 250 hertz, there are occasions where I find the bass is just a little bit too strong, and I like a cleaner listen. Thankfully, it's so easy to EQ. You can just take the 125 hertz band, drop it down by like 3 decibels, and then it's almost perfect for me for a blend of music because I listen to EDM and rock, and those usually benefit from more emphasized mid bass, if you will, and sub bass. So it's just all personal preference. However, these do have a really nice voicing to them. They don't make voices sound nasally or pinched. They don't make them too breathy or overall too bright. And it's just under the line of being sibilant or like too shimmery, if you will. So if you don't like that crazy bright sparkle effect or you're sensitive to that, yes, they could benefit from reducing 8 kilohertz by about 3 decibels. That'll kind of smooth it out just a little bit. But just keep in mind for stuff that isn't overly bright, like if you listen to a song that's darker and more relaxed sounding that is not a bright song, reducing that 8 kilohertz treble area will make it sound even less resolving and less detailed because you're presenting less treble information. So it could vary. My strong suggestion, start without doing any EQ, just listen to it for a while, see what you like, and then kind of adjust just the treble a little bit in that mid bass. And I think it's pretty easy to dial in an amazing sound at the end of the day. And that brings me to final thoughts, because there are a lot of pros and cons with headsets in this price range. And there's one more headset I'm reviewing soon. I'm reviewing the R8 from Rig, which is another higher end wireless headset. Then I'm finally going to do my head-to-head of all of these premium models to just focus on the differences, mic tests, comfort, all that stuff. I can tell you Turtle Beach is really close to something truly exceptional. There's just a couple gotchas at launch, and unfortunately, just to be blunt, this has kind of plagued some Turtle Beach launches in the past. My firmware performance in general, everything's been stable. I've had no issues this time. This is a huge improvement on a day one launch for something completely new. The ANC fix, I think, is going to help for some because that vibration and sub-bass noise, if you break a seal, if you're walking around, that can be a little fatiguing at time. So that will improve over time. And to me personally, I use game to chat mix quite a bit because I play certain games where sometimes my friends are too loud or the game's too loud, you know, whatever it may be. So those dynamic situations, I'm adjusting game mix in game, like game to chat mix while I'm playing. And lacking that at launch for PC on a $350 headset is not the greatest, to be candid with you all. When that eventually gets fixed on the PC version, all the other stuff is pretty good. 10-band EQ, that's personal preference, but thankfully it's tuned so well out of the box, it doesn't really need extensive EQ in the first place. Microphone performance is excellent, comfort is excellent, build quality is exceptional, and it does do cross-platform support, potentially by needing extra transmitters, so it is kind of in line with the SteelSeries Arctis Nova Omni in terms of overall feature set, with a couple different pros and cons differences, but I think this is the best headset Turtle Beach has ever done, and it's not even close because, frankly, you really feel like you at least got a $350 headset with this. The premium feel of this and the build quality is so robust. This is like leaps and bounds better than anything I've seen on the mid to high-end gaming headset side in this price range and anything from Turtle Beach in the past. So huge kudos to them on the build quality. I know this was a long and kind of winded tangent style review, but there was a lot to cover with this guy, and I hope that by watching this you learn more and I helped make your decision a little bit easier today. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you in some future videos. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.